Some bad news for Fox, as a judge in New York's Supreme Court Appellate Division has ruled against Fox's efforts to dismiss a $2.7 billion defamation case against the network. The company that brought the case is Smartmatic, which now joins Dominion, also currently moving forward with its own $1.6 billion defamation lawsuit against the network, and that goes to trial in April. Both lawsuits focus on Fox News knowingly spreading the lie that these companies helped steal the 2020 election from Donald Trump. And while it's certainly newsworthy that the Smartmatic lawsuit is moving forward, I want to focus on the Dominion lawsuit here, considering we now have a trove of newly disclosed messages and testimony from a number of Fox personalities, including Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, and Laura Ingraham, insulting and mocking people like Donald Trump, Sidney Powell, and Rudy Giuliani for perpetuating claims of a stolen election, while simultaneously then going on air and promoting those exact same figures and the claims that they were making. According to the filing, from the top down, Fox knew the Dominion stuff was total BS, yet despite knowing the truth, or at minimum recklessly disregarding that truth, Fox spread and endorsed these outlandish voter fraud claims about Dominion, even as it internally recognized the lies as crazy, absurd, and shockingly reckless. And just to give a few more concrete examples, here's what we now know thanks to texts that have been released. Laura Ingraham said Rudy is, quote, such an idiot. Sean Hannity said that Rudy is, quote, acting like an insane person and referred to him as an effing lunatic. A Lou Dobbs producer called him so full of shit, with another producer calling to keep in mind Rudy's insanity. And yet, here's who they put on air regardless.
Already documented to overturn the result in that state, because not only did they use a Venezuelan company to count our ballots, which almost should be illegal per se. Number two, they didn't allow Republicans in key places to observe the mail vote. That makes the mail vote completely invalid. Now, they didn't do it everywhere. They did it in big cities where they have corrupt machines that will protect them, meaning in Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh, in Detroit. They didn't have to do it in Chicago, in New York, or Boston. They could have. They have corrupt machines there. They did it absolutely in Phoenix, Arizona. They did it absolutely in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Republicans were shut out.
As for Sidney Powell, Tucker Carlson called her an unguided missile, dangerous as hell, and poison. Laura Ingraham called her a complete nut. No one will work with her, ditto with Rudy. To which Carlson responded, our viewers are good people and they believe it, making it clear that the viewers are being fed information that the Fox hosts themselves knew to be lunacy. And yet, here she is on Fox's air.
We've got evidence of corruption all across the country in countless districts. The machine ran an algorithm that shaved votes from Trump and awarded them to Biden. They used the machines to trash large batches of votes that should have been awarded to President Trump. And they used the machine to inject and add massive quantities of votes for Mr. Biden.
Gary Schreier, Senior Vice President of Programming for Fox Business, said Mike Lindell was on the crazy train with no brakes, and yet, you starting to notice a trend?
Well, of course, you will likely recognize our next guest. His name is Mike Lindell. He runs MyPillow. He advertises every night on this show and across Fox News. He's one of our biggest sponsors, and we are grateful for that. He is sponsoring free speech when he does it.
With this particular thing that's going on now, I've been all in trying to find the machine fraud, and we found it. We have all the evidence. So what all these outlets that have been calling me from the Washington Post, New York Times, every outlet in the country, they go, Mike Lindell, there's no evidence and he's making fraudulent statements. No, I have the evidence. I dare people to put it on. I dare Dominion to sue me because then it would get out faster.
Even Fox chairman Rupert Murdoch called Trump's voter fraud claims, quote, really crazy stuff, and CEO Suzanne Scott said terrible stuff damaging everybody, I fear. So if you were wondering whether these people knew what they were doing, you don't have to guess because they quite literally admitted it. Now, in their filing, repeatedly Fox News tried to hide behind this claim of newsworthiness, releasing a statement saying, quote, there is nothing more newsworthy than covering the President of the United States and his lawyers making allegations of voter fraud. Except they didn't just cover the president making allegations of voter fraud, they perpetuated it. Fox wasn't some neutral arbiter here, they were a character in this. And in fact, when a Fox reporter did try to fact-check one of Trump's baseless tweets referring to Fox broadcasts, she was attacked. Reporter Jackie Heinrich tweeted that there was no evidence of voter fraud from Dominion, and in response, text messages show that Fox hosts and executives lobbied to get her fired. Tucker Carlson told Hannity, please get her fired, seriously, what the fuck? I'm actually shocked, it needs to stop immediately, like tonight. Carlson said he just went crazy on Executive Vice President Meade Cooper over it. Hannity said he'd already mentioned it to CEO Suzanne Scott. I just dropped a bomb. Suzanne Scott then told Fox President Jay Wallace and Senior Vice President for Corporate Communications Irene Briganti that Heinrich, quote, has serious nerve doing this, and if this gets picked up, viewers are going to be further disgusted. So when Fox tries to issue this defense that they were simply showing the news and that they can't be penalized for doing so, just know that that's not at all what they were doing. They weren't showing the news, they were shaping the news by virtue of showing one specific narrative and outright punishing reporters for deigning to show a different narrative, one that just so happened to prove to be correct. Consider too, the law will shield Fox from liability if they report on false statements, but not if they promote them. And yet, Fox News was quite literally where these promotions took place. And they took place, again, in spite of the hosts and top executives all admitting that the claims were false and that the characters spewing them were crazy. Rudy and Powell and this crazy cast of rotating characters had carte blanche to appear on Fox News, and they did. In fact, in its filing, based on testimony, Dominion said that not a single Fox witness had testified that they believed any of the allegations about Dominion. Did that stop this nonsense from being force-fed to its viewers on a nightly basis? Not a chance. Let's be clear, Fox knew what it was doing. It was hyper-aware of losing a share of its audience to far-right competitors like Newsmax and OAN, which were freely promoting these lies. And it's no coincidence that those networks are also contending with litigation from Smartmatic and Dominion for the same reason. According to court filings, Fox hosts discussed the possibility of competition to Fox emerging. Hannity said, serious money with serious distribution could be a real problem. In my humble opinion, they need to address it, but WTF do I know? Hannity went on to confirm that every day he and his team do a very deep analysis of ratings to see audience reaction to certain stories or guests, saying the ratings are important. We look at the ratings every day. He also texted Carlson and Ingram saying the network is being rejected, to which Carlson responded, I've heard from angry viewers every hour of the day all weekend, including at dinner tonight. Hannity replied, same, never before has this ever happened. In other words, Fox not only had a vested interest in tacking right to avoid losing market share to competitors like Newsmax and OAN, but they were openly, provably admitting to it. All of which is to say that Fox knew exactly what it was doing. Its hosts are on record admitting that the information they were airing was utter nonsense, and yet they made the conscious decision to feed that disinformation to their audience anyway. An audience that, as Tucker Carlson himself admitted, believed it. And yet, while they try to hide behind tepid claims that they were just mere vessels of the news, just remember, the only news they allowed on air was fake. And in the rare instances where a reporter from Fox did opt to tell the truth, the rest of the network conspired to try and have her fired. They weren't interested in promoting the news, they were interested in promoting bogus conspiracy theories and disinformation for the express purpose of not angering Trump and not losing market share. I am as big an advocate of free speech as you will ever find, but Fox is not exercising free speech. It is spewing propaganda and lies so absurd and dangerous that even their own network admitted it. Before you go, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, please make sure to subscribe to my channel. You can click the thumbnail right here on this screen. And if you want to support my work even further, the best way is to subscribe to my podcast, No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen. There you can check out my interviews with major players in the world of politics, including President Biden, Vice President Kamala Harris, Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren, Katie Porter, Jamie Raskin, and so many more. Plus other interviews that live exclusively on the podcast. That link is also right here on this screen, or just search No Lie with Brian Tyler Cohen wherever you listen to podcasts.